Good evening. Welcome to Monday's evening on when I'm going through the 7 factors of awakening, and we are now in the second module looking at the factor of investigation of reality. So applying, for example, the skill of mindfulness and applying it to investigate our experiences, investigate our different reactions, and so on and so forth. Investigating some of our deeply held beliefs and views, and see for ourselves, which of those habits or views or beliefs are conducive to our own happiness, that they actually bring forth happiness as a result. So if we were to follow them or act on them, or do they bring about more problem for us, more suffering? So instead of having to take others' words, take on other people's words, just our belief, we can investigate for ourselves. We can apply a quality such as mindfulness that we have gone through and find out for ourselves what is the truth of the matter. So far I have touched on applying mindfulness to thinking. Probably roughly you can say there's 2 techniques. One is to simply label thinking as thinking. That is a very helpful mindfulness technique and help us to, at least as far as investigation goes, to be able to see clearly what are our thoughts, what are the things that are kind of brought into our attention through thinking, and contrasting that with what we become aware of through sensing through our physical senses, primarily like seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. So to contrast those two sometimes can be helpful, because even though we might be listening to somebody, in real life, listening to somebody, but bulk of our attention is actually caught up in our own thinking, and the reality may be that we didn't really hear clearly what the person is saying. We are so dominated by our thoughts, and our projections. Maybe sometimes we might misheard the other person. And so it's really helpful, at least this first technique to investigate reality, is to be able to differentiate when are we sensing and when are we thinking. Although it sounds very trivial, but it's not. It isn't actually. It can be very helpful, because it can actually save us a lot of trouble. As far as, for example, when we are in a conversation, especially an important conversation, the more we are able to invest our attention back into actually seeing, listening, just be present in that moment, to receive the information, then the more accurate the information is, the better we can respond appropriately to it. And that occasion is very helpful to be able to make a distinction between what we are sensing directly in that moment and what are just coming from our own thinking, our own ruminations, our own reactions, sometimes quite often our projections onto that person or onto that situation. Previously, we also talked about another technique, which is more refined, is to refine our attention towards thinking, and to be able to not just to group all of them together as thinking, but to be able to see each thought for what it is, to be able to pay attention and really notice what is it that I'm telling myself, what is the story that I'm sort of elaborating on within my own mind, through my own inner speech, my inner conversation, not necessarily words. It can also include memories, images, visual images, and so forth. Could elaborate it in the form of a fantasy, elaborate it in the form of imagined conversations or arguments, or we can bring back past memories of past incidents, past events, and by paying really closer attention to the details of that whole thinking, we can learn a lot about ourselves, learn a lot about the mechanism that is happening in that moment. What is it that I'm repeatedly telling myself? What is the story? After you become familiar with the different stories, we can evaluate and see for ourselves how accurate are those stories. Are those stories an accurate reflection of the reality? Or maybe these stories involve exaggerations, involve a lot of projections, a lot of superimpositions, and maybe there isn't that much truth to to those stories. By believing in them, we are doing ourselves a great disservice. We are sending our attention down in the wrong way, and because of that, we might respond inappropriately to those situations because we see them in the wrong way. We are thinking about them in a distorted way. So this is roughly where we are at in investigation of reality through applying the skill of mindfulness. So before I carry on today, I thought we can revisit this, and I sometimes think of this particular way of paying mindful attention to our thoughts, mindful attention to our senses. I like to summarize them and just think of it as listening. I particularly, quite often, there is a meditation that I sometimes guide, and I do it myself. It's called listening meditation, which we start off with the medium of listening. Because listening for me has a special quality to it, in the sense that when we are listening, first of all, it's effortless. We don't do anything. And in order to listen better, actually, we need to do less. In fact, we have to stop doing whatever it is. If we are we're doing something with our hands, or we're trying to read something else, to listen better to what the sound or what someone is trying to say to us, we actually have to stop what we are doing. Stop fidgeting, doing this and that, stop reading other things. We just put aside all this for the time being so that we can turn our full attention to receive the sound, to receive what another person might be trying to say to us. And also, to listen better, we need to quiet down inside. We don't have to do anything, in fact, but we have to undo something. We just have to put aside the thoughts, put aside all the different stuff happening. The more we are able to do that, the better we are able to listen. So by stopping what we are doing externally or physically, and also internally to quiet down, to put aside the thinking, the busyness, or the planning, and so on and so forth, that provides the best condition for us to be receptive, to be open, and to be able to listen better, and to be able to receive the reality of that moment. So because of this quality associated with the sense of listening, I use it as an analogy. So we can likewise extend this analogy of listening to other aspects, to be aware of other aspects of our experience. Just as in order to listen better, we need to simplify, we need to stop doing many things. In fact, best not to do anything else, and also to quiet down internally, to put aside the thoughts and other consideration, so that our attention can come fully into this moment to listen. Likewise, the similar, by way of analogy, will also happen, to sense better what is happening with our own body, through our tactile sensations. We can also think of it as listening to our body. What is my body trying to tell me? Through all the different sensations, through the tensing, the relaxing, to the tightening and the loosening, through the different sensations, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Maybe the body is, and the body, of course, is reacting to something that is happening in my life, happening in this moment. And in order to better be in touch with the body, it's almost like I also need to listen to the body, allow those sensations. The sensations are a little bit like the speech of my body, allow it to come into awareness so that I can at least be in touch with my own body. At least I can connect my attention, my mind with the body to heal that connection between body and mind. So that is true for sound, for bodily sensation, true for, of course, all the other physical senses. And likewise, we can also even extend the energy further. I can listen to my thoughts, almost as if my thoughts are another aspect of myself, having something to say. So I can also quiet down, not get myself not busy with other things, just bring my full attention back to this moment and listen to my own thoughts. What is my mind trying to say to me, through all these different involuntary thoughts, involuntary thinking that's been triggered most likely by the different situations that's happening. Or sometimes it could be just a habit, habits of the mind, in terms of reminiscence or in terms of fantasizing, daydreaming. Sometimes, I daydream a lot. It's one of my favorite pastimes. And occasionally, I also, as the daydream is going, I also tune in and with another aspect of myself, listen to that daydream. What are the driving force behind that particular fantasy? What is the yearning or the longing that is expressed through this fantasy? So I can also bring mindful attention to my thoughts, my thinking process, and listen. So it's the same. It's just a slightly different approach to what I have presented previously. Listen so that I can hear or see a thought as a thought. And not only that, to be able to hear better the contents of the thought, to hear better what is the story I'm spinning in this moment. So that is listening. And through such a listening practice, we become better acquainted with first of all, with our habits. We do have certain habits of thinking. Different of us habitually think in different ways or react to thoughts in different ways. So we can become acquainted with it. We know ourselves a bit better. We know maybe we tend to react with anger, so we can listen better to those angry thoughts. What exactly is going on? What is it that's triggering the anger? And sometimes if you pay really close attention, going beyond the words that's been expressed and the feelings, there are something underneath the belief, certain strongly held belief, opinions, or view. Sometimes we can also hear past experiences that are still very much alive and conditioning our reactions. So there are much things we can learn about ourselves by paying careful attention, mindful attention through this analogy of listening. Or other times when we are a bit perplexed by our own reactions or overreactions, then we can listen a bit better. And we may be able to discern that sometimes it may not be what is superficially, that is the superficial happening that is triggering this reaction. Sometimes it's something much more deep-seated. And if we pay careful attention, we may be able to discover it for ourselves. So that is the practice of listening to sound, listening to our own body, our own different tactile sensations, listening to our thoughts. So I thought we can start with the first meditation, just to revisit what I've covered so far in terms of investigating our reality or the reality of this moment, the reality of our own experiences, by doing this kind of alternative way of learning to getting to know our own thoughts, which is through the medium of listening. So what I'm going to do is, after we settle into our posture, I'm going to ring this bowl, this singing bowl, two sets of sound, maybe one set followed by a long pause and then a set. And by creating that sound, I'm inviting you along with me to shift to the listening mode. Listening mode is very easy. In fact, the best thing to do is to do nothing physically, just settle back, and then internally to just quiet down and just allow the sound to come to us. The sound that comes through the speaker or headphone or whatever it is you have. Allowing the sound, the vibration of the sound to come into our awareness. We don't have to do anything. The sound will happen effortlessly. And that invite us to shift to a listening mode, which is a kind of mindfulness, mindful attention, mindful awareness, in this case to sound. And during the long pause in between the two sets of bells, just to be aware of the sound in your surrounding. Or if I'm talking, then the sound of my voice coming through. And followed by the second set. But in the midst of all this listening, you would find that without any effort, you also become aware of the body, the different physical sensations arising within the body. But we can also listen to that. We can listen, we can welcome that into our awareness, be receptive to that, and just notice, maybe certain parts of the body feel very tight, very tense, very uncomfortable. We can listen to it. Or maybe the body is responding by loosening up, unwinding, really settling down comfortably. And then we can also listen and be aware of those comfortable feelings, those sense of relaxation and ease. And eventually, before long, thoughts will arise. The thinking mind will kick in. And then we can also try to listen to those thoughts. Listening to thoughts is different from being involved in the thought, being caught up in the thought. Being caught up in the thoughts means our attention is not actually on the thought, but is directed by the thoughts towards whatever it is we're thinking about. So if I'm planning dinner later on, so the object of my thoughts are dinner. And when attention is caught up in the thought, attention is focused on dinner, because thought is directing my attention towards its object, dinner. So in that case, I'm not listening to the thoughts. I'm already following the thoughts. I'm involved with the thoughts. I'm preoccupied with the object of my thoughts, dinner, that is to come. But if we are able to sort of step back, so to speak, or come back to here and now, then what we're doing is we can hear that, I have all these thoughts. They're all about dinner. So I'm actually aware of the thoughts, not so much about, and of course I know those are thoughts about dinner, but the focus of my attention is not solely directed towards dinner. It's also, it's actually much more with the unfolding of the thoughts themselves. I often give an analogy of it's like on the train platform. There's a difference between when the train pull in, and then our habit, when the door open, we just step on, we board the train, and we are carried away, transported by the train elsewhere. Versus me standing and stay standing or stay sitting on the bench on the train platform and just noticing the train coming, stopping, open the door open, people alight or board, and door closed, and then off goes the train. So the train coming and going, a train spotting, so to speak. So, but throughout the whole time, I stay on the platform, on the bench, on the seats. I didn't board the train. I was not transported elsewhere by the train. So that's that's the energy for if I board the train, if I'm transported away by the train, that means I have become involved in that train of thought. I'm carried away by the train of thought. I'm carried to the destination. I'm carried towards the object of those thoughts. But if I'm able to stay on the train platform and just spot the train, notice them coming and going, then I'm aware of the thoughts. I'm not caught up in the thoughts. I'm actually aware of the thoughts. I'm aware that this is a train. This is a train of thoughts. It's coming, it's unfolding, then it's gone. So listening is this abiding mode. Listening is being present and to be able to be aware of the thinking process, but not so caught up in it that I'm actually carried away by it. So, and it's not a major problem if we are carried away by thinking. We just notice it and we just come back here now, come back to the listening mode and listen. So it's not the end of the world if we do get carried away, and we'll find that quite often we do get carried away because that is our habit, and that is the tendency to follow our thoughts is very strong. But with practice, with mindfulness practice, we learn to differentiate the two, and we learn to come back to here and now, and to once again become this listening space within which we are aware of sound, bodily sensation, and thoughts. Okay, so let's do a short meditation on this. So I invite you to take a few moments, find a comfortable meditation posture, and to settle our body into that meditation posture, which could be sitting upright in a chair, or on the floor, on the cushion, or you can also, in the privacy of your own place, to lie down on your back in the supine position. And as we adjust our body to settle into the meditation posture, take care that we rest our hands and arms on some kind of physical support so that we can allow both shoulders to be as relaxed as possible. And we don't have to tense up the shoulder muscles or arm muscles during the meditation to just hold up the arms and hands in some special way. Feel free to close your eyes completely. For me, that is the easiest way. But if you are used to meditating with your eyes open or half open, then that is also perfectly fine. So we take the few moments at the beginning of meditation just to allow the body time to adjust, to figure out this posture, to find its way into the posture. Very helpful to reassure our body by becoming aware of how in this posture our body is resting on the supports, which could be the floor, the chair, or wherever it is you're settling on. Come across as something really stable, solid, and firm, and that the whole body is well supported in the posture with a sense of balance and safety. And this will go a long way to encourage the body to loosen up, encourage the body in a deep way to unwind all those tightenings and tensions, quite often quite unnecessary for this moment. Tensions that are more a reaction to maybe stressful situations, circumstances in our life. And we become habituated to it, we're habituated to this state of tension and tightness and reactivity. But now that we have settled our body into such a comfortable, supportive posture, we really encourage the body to, in its own time, to unwind, to start to let go of some of those unnecessary tensions and contractions, and to settle down more and more comfortably into the posture. So I'm going to ring or sound this singing bowl. I invite you to just be present here, be open, receptive, just temporarily quiet down the mind to receive the sounds. See if we can stay in this listening mode during this short pause, and also be open and receptive to the sounds in your surroundings or from within your own body. So shifting into the listening mode as you are hearing my voice, sounds in your surrounding. In this listening mode, almost immediately you'll find that not only are you open and receptive to sounds, but you are also aware of bodily sensations, sensations from different parts of the body, tensing, relaxing, tightness, looseness, comfortable feelings or uncomfortable feelings. Listening, being aware in this moment, become aware of the sensation at your own face. Notice whether are you tightening or tensing up any of the facial muscles. And since in meditation, there is really no need for us to maintain such tension and tightness in our face, is it possible for you, as you become aware of those tension and tightness, to persuade your body, to persuade yourself, to relax those facial muscles, to somehow welcome in a different set of feelings, a sense of softness or softening of the muscles, sense of ease and comfort in your own face. And likewise, listening, tuning in not just to the sounds, but also to other bodily sensations that you can notice within your body in this moment. Areas of tensions in the body and areas of relaxation. Just take note of them as they are for the time being. And before long, you will become aware of thoughts, thinking. Thinking is happening. Maybe you will find that your attention is easily caught up in those thoughts, in the thinking process. Your attention is carried away by the thoughts to elsewhere, to the past, to the future, to a fantasy. When that happens, see if you can regard that as a totally normal thing, a normal reaction. And just invite our attention to come back here and now, come back to be present in this moment as that listening space. Once again, be open and receptive to sounds, to bodily sensations, and if possible, to thoughts, to thinking, but without getting caught up or involved in them, if you can. Coming back to this moment, to just be a listening awareness, a listening space within which you are aware of sounds, you're aware of bodily sensations, and you're aware of your own thoughts as thoughts. If you can, listen carefully. Listen carefully to your own thinking, to your own thoughts. What are they about? What is your mind trying to tell you? What is the story created by those thoughts? What is it about? And on occasions, you'll find that no thought is arising. And simply allow yourself, your attention to rest here and now, and be comfortable as that listening space, listening awareness, and stay open to the sounds, to bodily sensations, and to thoughts. Coming back to this moment again and again, see if we can invite our attention, our awareness to be back here and now, to be that listening awareness, that listening space, to welcome the sounds, the bodily sensations, the thoughts. In fact, sometimes in this method of meditation, the sounds in the surrounding can be our allies, inviting our attention, reminding our attention to come back here and now, to step out of those thoughts, the fantasies, the planning, the reminiscence, to come back to the present moment, to come back to be aware in this moment. Coming back to this moment, reminding ourselves to just be that listening awareness, listening space, tuning in to the trains of thoughts. If possible, listen to see what are we telling ourselves in the form of thoughts, through words or images, memories, fantasies. Listen not only to the superficial, what is at the surface, but we can also tune in to maybe the feelings beneath them, maybe to the beliefs, to the views, to the opinions that fuel those thinking. Listen and be aware and get to know ourselves better in terms of the different thoughts, different thinking patterns. See if we can settle back and just be open, receptive, and listen. coming back to the present moment, to be that listening awareness, listening space. We can transform what used to be distraction or disturbances into something helpful. Sounds can now become our helpful companions, inviting us to come back to the present moment, to come back to listening. Bodily sensations, pleasant ones or unpleasant ones, likewise are reminders, reminding us to listen. And even trains of thoughts that pull into the station of our mind can remind us to be back here and now, to be this listening awareness, listening space. Coming back to this moment, just as we're listening, we listen better if we are able to put aside our own agenda, we're able to put aside our own concerns and worries. And we listen better if we are able to put aside our expectations of results. We are better able to receive and to hear what is actually being said, what is actually happening in this moment. Likewise, we can bring mindfulness this moment, mindful of sounds, bodily sensations, mindful of thoughts, without so much of personal agenda, without trying to get rid of anything, without trying to make something happen. Instead, simply being present here and now, to receive, to be open, to be aware, so that we can learn something about ourselves, our body, and our mind. So we can settle back the last few minutes of the meditation, be present, open, and allow ourselves to relax into listening. Okay, so that is listening meditation. Sometimes when I do listening meditation, the sort of unexpected effect of that is when you sort of purposely choose to listen, you might find that, especially when you listen to thoughts, there's not so much thoughts, actually, almost as if our thoughts are a bit shy and sort of they stay hidden. But that's all right. No, first of all, there's a natural effect of the method, the technique. And if that's the case, then we can just enjoy listening to the sound, being aware of the body, and be present in this moment. After all, that is quite a rare thing for most of us. And since thoughts do not arise to bother us or to draw our attention away, why not enjoy this moment? And when thoughts do arise, occasionally we'll be able to notice them as thoughts. We're able to listen to what they're trying to say. And there are also other occasions where we inevitably get caught up in them, drawn away by them. And either way is fine. If we are able to listen, then we listen. And if we got lost in thoughts, then we can always, when we recognize it, we can step back, step out of it, and just come back to this moment. Come back to listen to the sound in real time in this moment, come back to listen to our body, and also come back and listen to our own mind and heart. So this is just an elaboration of what I've touched on previously, mindfulness of thoughts. So we can make use of the sense modality of listening as an analogy, listening to our thoughts, what our thoughts have to say about this and that. And today, I would like to present yet another way of investigating reality also with mindfulness. And this one is a bit unusual. You can call it retrospective mindfulness, or you can just call it recollection, which means recollecting, inviting something that has already passed, inviting the past to come to mind, come back into the space of our awareness so that we can be aware of it, so that we can notice, this through memories, of course, notice the details, notice things that we may have missed or we may are less aware of while we are in the midst of it. So now that there's some distancing, now in this case, the distancing is primarily in terms of time. Of course, maybe could be in terms of space as well. If we are thinking about something that happened early on at work, and now you're at home. So there is a distancing, physical distancing in terms of space. There's temporal distancing in terms of time. And given this distancing, it's always almost like stepping back or stepping away. Now, if we try to recollect what happened in the past and invite the incidents to come back to mind, we try to stay factual, because it's very easy in such occasion to get worked up again, especially if we are recollecting something that is charged with emotions or charged with our reactions are still very strong. Then it's of course easy to get caught up again, with our thoughts about the situation, our thoughts about the situation, about the future, and so on and so forth. But if possible, step out of those thoughts, those reactive thoughts, come back to this moment, and just in a very factual, maybe out of curiosity, wishing to investigate, learn, to see the situation clearer, or at least clearly, just recollect some of the factual aspects of that incident. It could be the scenario, the setting. Try to recollect what is, if it's a conversation, what sort of conversation has, been exchanged, what are the words that's been spoken. You can recollect also our own feelings, what we feel at that moment, our reactions. As much as possible, if we can recollect the details, the factual details, without getting caught up in further analysis and interpretation or elaborations. If we can avoid that as much as possible and just stick to the facts, then it affords us a different, again, through awareness, through mindfulness, maybe a different look, a different view of a situation which at that moment is too charged with emotions. We are too emotional, we are too caught up in it, that we may not be able to see clearly. Now that there is some distancing in terms of space and time, hopefully when we look back and recollect some of those aspects of it, bring it back to mind, mindfulness, allow it to come fully to mind. Now, we are able to see it in a different light or have a different perspective. Could be about the situation, could be about whoever the person, or could be about ourselves. Now that we look back in time, so retrospective mindfulness. But instead of always thinking of negative things, we don't necessarily always have to investigate suffering situation, reactive situation, stressful situation. We can also investigate happy situation. We can also recollect past moments of happiness. We can recollect fortunate circumstances, fortunate happenings, good times, fun times. That is also worthy of investigation, worthy of inviting back into our awareness. We can also learn something about it, and also it can have a very beneficial effect on ourselves. So I thought today we focus on the positive in this presentation, because otherwise we can really get an idea that all we investigate and all we are mindful of, all painful, unpleasant, suffering situations, terrible things that happen to us. Yeah. But actually there are also a lot we can learn, and also we can bring about very positive results if we allow ourselves to be mindful of good things, fortunate things. So this meditation, sometimes I call this meditation appreciating our precious human life. And we apply such retrospective mindfulness or recollection. But here, what we are recollecting, what we are bringing to mind, the details are our share of happiness, our share of good fortune in our life, things that we can bring to mind and allow us in this moment to appreciate them, to develop a sense of, sometimes we call it appreciative joy, which means it's a kind of feeling happy and rejoicing in our own share of happiness and good fortune. Or sometimes people can call it gratitude meditation, to feel, and gratitude is a bit different from joy, but nonetheless, recollecting all these past moments of happiness, also occasions where we feel that we have been blessed in a way, we have able to enjoy some very fortunate conditions, circumstances, we have wonderful experiences, we can feel grateful for that, grateful for such opportunities, past opportunities, grateful towards those people in our life that make such a positive impact on us. Or alternatively, I tend to think of it as appreciative joy, to rejoice and to have a sense of appreciation of how wonderful it is that we have all those moments and all those conditions, favorable conditions and opportunities. And we do so through the power of recollection. We can also call it recollective awareness. And we try to stick to the facts, have some trust. We don't have to embellish it. We don't have to exaggerate it. We just have to invite back into our awareness those moments. And I usually do it in a random way. I don't try to do it chronologically or in some logical framework. I sort of find much more enjoyable and also much more allowing for some pleasant surprises, long lost, long forgotten memories. It doesn't have to be a long time ago, but can just pop into my mind. A scene, a particular kind of image, can trigger a whole series of recollection of the details of that experience. And when that comes to mind, we can just as listening, just pay attention. In this case, recollect the details around that situations or circumstances, and not only can we awaken the details, the factual details, we can also maybe awaken a little bit of that feelings, similar feelings, not exactly the same, similar feelings, similar sort of sentiments of that moment, and bring that into our awareness in this moment, during this meditation. What it does is it affords us another view of our life, of ourselves, another perspective from a positive point of view, from a positive angle, so that we can appreciate and say, oh, wow, yes, I have forgotten all this, and which is very, very true when we are stressed, we are sort of hurried, when we are feeling anxious, worrying about the future, we tend to forget about these other aspects of our life, which is also true to us. And now is a good time through the practice of recollective awareness or retrospective mindfulness to investigate this aspect of our life, the positive aspect. And maybe we can help us develop a sense of appreciation, a sense of joyfulness towards ourselves, towards our life, help us to develop a more positive view of our life, and maybe bring forth a sense of gratitude, which can really, all this can greatly transform our relationship towards ourselves, towards our own history, towards our past, and make a kind of positive contribution towards our happiness. Yeah. So what are the things that we recollect? I mean, it's entirely up to you. Sometimes I just leave it open. Traditionally, in the topic related to this, thinking about our precious human, in the Buddhist context, we call it precious human rebirth. In that teaching, it's very specific. It invites us to reflect on the freedom, the kind of freedom from obstacles, the freedom, as well as the positive, the opportunities that our life afford us from the point of view of spiritual practice, from the point of view of Buddhist Buddhist study and practice, the opportunity to encounter Buddhism, encounter Buddhist teachers, the Buddhist teaching, and the opportunity to put those teachings into practice in order to benefit from it. So that is a very specific kind of agenda, so to speak. And in line with that, then we are invited to recollect and to be mindful of those aspects of our life. Could be past, could be present, also could be also available here and now. In terms of the opportunity that we have in our life, and in terms of the freedom. Freedom is a little bit more tricky to appreciate that we are free from certain obstacles and opposing situations, which otherwise would prevent us from doing so. Yeah. So freedom, in that sense, is a little bit more abstract, a bit harder to remember and to appreciate. But I find that sometimes in a more general setting, we can broaden the scope. We don't have to limit it specifically to from the point of view of spiritual practice, from the point of view of Buddhism. We can also appreciate a life in a broader sense. Just to appreciate the good things in our life, the good fortune we ourselves are endowed with, or of course that include also freedom from certain suffering or unfortunate circumstances which afflict a lot of people in the world, and we can also appreciate that we are quite free from that, which is a wonderful thing. And also sometimes it doesn't always have to be so holy and sacred. You can also recollect and appreciate simple moments of fun, of joy, of connection, of love in our life. And those are also very valuable. They may come across as very mundane, very simple things, but retrospectively looking back, we can really appreciate. We can appreciate all the wonderful meals that we may have cooked by one's mother. Hopefully your mother is a good cook. Otherwise, it may not be such a fun recollection. Experiences that we ourselves have in our life. There are maybe defining moments in our life that are transformative, that are really uplifting, inspiring, positive. Encounter with significant others who make a really positive impact on our life. So these are things that we can invite into our awareness through this recollection. And it's a form of investigation, because we are looking at our life through a very specific view or lenses, and try to give ourselves a different perspective on ourselves, on our own life, and hopefully one that will enable us to bring forth positive emotions, uplifting emotions such as appreciation, joy, and gratitude, and allow us to maybe reappreciate our life from this other different angle. Okay, enough of me babbling on. So let's do a meditation on appreciating our precious human life as a way of investigating through the power of recollection and retrospective mindfulness. Yeah. So I invite you to settle back in a meditation posture. As always, we take a few moments to ensure that the body is comfortable, to give the body some time to adjust itself, to settle into the meditation posture, to feel supported and balanced and safe in the posture, and to encourage the body when it feels ready to unwind, to loosen up, to set aside unnecessary contractions and tensions. Might be helpful to select a support for our attention as we enter into this exploration. Usually I make use of the natural breath as a support for attention. The breath that is happening right here and now in this moment is a very soothing, support, that we can invite our attention to come back to resting our attention on the breath or allowing the breath sensations into awareness, allowing ourselves to fully experience the in-breath and the out-breath. We take a few minutes at the beginning of the meditation, attending to the breath, and especially the out-breath. Each time we breathe out, see if we can notice that subtle sense of release that comes along with it. Breathing out, we release carbon dioxide. We release the stale air from our lungs. Maybe each time we breathe out, we can also make use of this opportunity to release. You can persuade the body to release and put aside any unnecessary contractions and tightness. For example, starting with the face, breathing out. If we have unconsciously tense up the muscles of our face, tightening those muscles of the forehead, or those muscles around the eyes or of the jaw, now might be a good time to see if we can release those tensions. Just allow the whole face to soften, to feel more comfortable, more relaxed. Coming back to the breath sensations, allowing the breath to come fully into awareness. On the out breath, maybe we can also put aside or allow the body to put aside other areas of contractions and tightness, and allow the mind in its own time to put aside thoughts, images, words not related to the meditation. Coming back to the breath, and when we notice an out breath, we practice releasing. Practice reminding body and mind that they can release. And the breath will always be here, so we can make use of it as a support at any time during the meditation, the recollection. And when we get a bit confused, or the mind is very agitated or caught up in lots of thoughts, we simply invite our attention to come back to this moment, to rest on the breath, and as we breathe out, to deepen the sense of release. And now within the space of the mind, I invite you to practice recollection, retrospective mindfulness, to invite back into our awareness experiences of the past, moments of the past that might render our life as something precious and valuable. In fact, our life itself is precious and valuable because every single experience we ever have is unique to us. It's unique to that particular set of conditions and therefore are quite unrepeatable. But nonetheless, in this occasion, I invite you to recollect past experiences of happiness, of good fortune, moments of simple joy, as well as circumstances and opportunity you'll find within your life, all which contribute to your happiness, to your well-being. You can define that in your own way. And as you recollect different instances with each one of them, allowing them to come fully into awareness, best is, if possible, to recollect the details of those experiences, the setting, the circumstances, the people, the sensory experiences, and maybe even awaken related feelings, thoughts, emotions. Only if they are relevant, only if they are appropriate, we can always release images or memories that are not helpful or unrelated. We can breathe out and let them go. For those appropriate and helpful and suitable, as we recollect them, see if we can respond to them at this moment with a sense of appreciation or joy or gratitude, whatever is appropriate. Sometimes I do this, sometimes I express the sense of appreciation or joy with a simple phrase, how wonderful this is, that I learned from my own teacher. A very simple phrase to express a sense of rejoicing, of appreciation, maybe even gratitude. So allow your attention to come back here and now, settle down, settle back. Be open and receptive, just as when we are listening, and welcome into your awareness in this moment. Experiences of the past, good times, fun times, joyful times, appreciation of positive opportunities, good fortune to come to you in your life. And as each one of them appear within your awareness, see if you can go into a bit of details, allow yourself to re-experience some aspect of it in order for you to bring forth a genuine sense of appreciation and joy and gratitude. How wonderful this is. So coming back to this moment, reconnecting with the breath, if that's helpful, as we settle back here and now, opening our awareness and welcoming, recollecting incidents of the past, circumstances, as we revisit the details of those past experiences. See if we can respond to all these positive experiences, positive circumstances in a genuine way from within ourselves, with appreciation, with joy, rejoicing in them, feeling gratitude, maybe how wonderful this is. Coming back to this moment, as we settle our mind in the present moment, open our awareness to receive, to recollect past instances, memories, or something beneficial, helpful, happy moments, joyful moments, good fortune within ourselves. We are also allowing ourselves to take a different perspective, to take a different view towards our life, towards our personal self, towards our overall experiences. By investigating our reality in this way with the help of retrospective mindfulness, recollection, see whether we can come to a place where, in a very sincere, natural way, we let into our awareness feelings of happiness, of rejoicing, of appreciation, appreciating this very unique and precious human life of ours. How wonderful it is. Okay, I hope you find something wonderful in your recollection. Being a pessimist, I always, in the past, when I did this meditation, I used to worry, just in case someone in the audience recollect nothing good comes to mind. It'll be terrible, isn't it? But these days, I probably get a little bit more relaxed and a little bit more trust that each one of us, if we do look back, we are open to it. We all have moments of at least pleasant experiences. We all encounter some good fortune. The fact that we are alive means that there's something going for us, something that support us, that enable our survival. So maybe it is not too much to say that most of us at least, will be able to find something, more than one thing, more than one moment in our life that we can look back and we can appreciate, we can feel happy about it, and joyful and rejoice about it. And emerging from such a meditation like this, which invite us through the power of recollection, of mindfulness, retrospective mindfulness, to investigate and to take another look at our life, or our impressions of our life, what we remember of our life. It afford us, try to get us to shift our perspective, to see our life from a different angle. And maybe that in itself can be very powerful, because that is also our reality. Especially for a pessimist like me, the more common view of my life might be from a negative angle. And that is not the whole of reality. Of course, there are suffering aspects of my life, unfortunate circumstances and experiences, but that is not the whole of reality. So it's helpful to investigate and to sort of also accommodate this different view of my life, one that is much more upbeat, much more hopeful, much more constructive. And that kind of balance things out for me, and also allow me to be able to see both the happy side and also acknowledge the unhappy sides. This is just in terms of our life. We can apply the similar technique of investigation to maybe specific instances a single event, and by recollecting the event, we might discover yet another perspective. The one perspective is how we initially react to that situation, and other perspective might be one that is more conducive, enable us to find different feelings, a different approach to deal with the situation. One instance may initially invoke anger, great anger, and yet on looking back, we might be able to find compassion. One instance, we might develop great attachment towards it from a particular perspective, and yet on further investigation, we might find that we have a different view of that person, that object. We can come to let go of it. Yeah. So investigation of Dharma is therefore helpful in able to bring about all this different, a change of mind, a change of heart, a change of response, a change of behavior. So that is the factor of investigation of reality, and within which there are many different techniques, which is what I'm slowly going through. It's not always necessary to apply all the techniques, but it's good to be aware of the options available. And each one of us may have some favorites, and it's good to have built up a toolbox with different options available for us to help us better investigate our reality. So that's it for this week. All the material. So far, usually this class, nobody would have any questions or comments, so I just assume everything is all right. I do have two announcements from November onwards. We are not scheduling my classes on YouTube, this individual scheduling or this individual sessions. Instead, there will be just one single link to YouTube from VI's YouTube channel. So it's always the same URL. I think it's for live streaming, direct live streaming. So you just have to each week go to that particular URL for all my classes, meditation, or this Monday night, even evening course. Yeah. So just to take note of it from November onwards. Okay. So anyway, wish you to have a good week ahead and hope to see you next week. So take care and good night.